Well, thank you everyone for joining me today on my little presentation about film noir. So some stylistic tropes that you can usually see to identify that it is a film noir. Some really obvious ones is that it's usually in black and white and has really dark, harsh lighting. You usually have the main protagonist. It's usually a guy who is a private eye. And we usually have as well a femme fatale, which is usually just a really attractive, overly sexualized lady, probably smoking a cigar and leaning over a piano and seducing the man in some way, and is probably really dangerous in some way. And the main character's got to, not be tempted by her. She's untrustworthy. She's too sexy to be, a good person, basically, is her whole characterization. This is a really generalized sort of thing. The main character, or actually all the characters, are usually haunted by their past in some way. And the films usually explore paranoia. They're not really understanding reality, and there's a sort of general sense of claustrophobia. And basically film noir kind of came out of disillusionment, and that they're kind of exploring that within the film. And usually there's a lot of alcohol, a lot of substances like cigarettes and all that sort of stuff. And I always find it really funny when they use blinds as well, just because that's a pretty often used stylistic trope where the character will be looking out the window and they'll have the harsh blind lights on them. But that's not a requirement, but it is something you see a lot. I'm a really big fan of the femme fatale, and she's really interesting in the sense that she's kind of feminist in that she's taking control of her own path, but she's also really not. She's really sexist in the sense that she's usually reduced to her sexuality, and often if she goes too far in her ambition, she usually ends up dying at the end of the film or something, depending on what the director wants to do. But femme fatale is literally means fatal woman. It's French, and she's sometimes also characterized as being a man-eater or a vamp, because sometimes she's literally a vampire in films. So she's a real kind of stock character in the sense that she's mysterious, she's beautiful, she's seductive, she's trying to hide something about her true self. And so she kind of utilizes her sexuality in a male-dominated world to, ensnare her lovers and leading them into compromising, deadly traps. It's basically her character kind of reveals, I say society's fears of women, but it's really men's fears of women. And the femme fatale kind of came out of post-World War II sort of movement, because, around then women were starting to, have independence and have jobs, and men were very much get out of the workplace, please, we want our jobs back, sort of thing. So, and yeah, they weren't used to a lot of women suddenly experiencing, financial freedom or wanting to do more than just being a housewife. And the femme fatale is often juxtaposed with another female character who is this wholesome woman character, who, is everything that society wants a woman to be. She's demure, she wants to just be a mother or something really fun like that. So some classic examples are Gilda, who's the character on the right. Rebecca, which we did which is that film with it's done by Alfred Hitchcock, but there was also a recent version with Lily James. The anti-hero is literally just the protagonist who doesn't quite fit the mold of a traditional hero. So a traditional hero would be someone if I was going to be really general, would be someone Captain America or Superman, who never questions whether what they're doing is right or not, and they always seem to magically fall into doing the right thing and never questions it at all. They seem to have their own moral code, but that's not necessarily in step with whatever is the justice system at the time. They're usually male. They're often within film noir a private eye because they're investigating the crime, or they're a vigilante and they're doing it out of step with. They're not a cop, for example, and they're doing it independently. They're usually antisocial loners and they're cynical. They usually drink a lot, usually smoke a lot, usually morally ambiguous, and they just kind of fit in within that grey area. Cool, fantastic. Thank you so much. So that's the end of this presentation.